At some point in our design process, we'll need to produce a hard copy of our work. Let's look at how we can create a quick print of our drawing for review purposes. On my screen, I have a mechanical example. Let me mention that the units for this drawing were set to decimal inches. So if I zoom in a little bit, I can see that my part is 12 inches wide by 12 inches tall. So we're dealing with a relatively small drawing. I would like to produce a hard copy of this guy, and I don't require the formality of a title block. I pretty much want to print this drawing on paper so I can put it in someone's hands for their review. To do that, I'm going to come up to the Quick Access toolbar and launch the Plot command. This brings up my Plot dialog box. And before we move on, if you have any questions about plotting, one great place you can go is this hyperlink right here. If you click this, AutoCAD will give you additional information for putting your designs on paper. Likewise, if you have any questions about the settings in this box, simply hover over the setting and AutoCAD will tell you a little bit more about it. All right, let's start out by selecting our printer. I'm going to click my name flyout, and right here at the top of the list, take a look at these icons. These icons represent system printers that are connected to my machine or visible on my network. Now, each person's system is different, so you may see different printers on my machine than you see on yours. If we look at the bottom of the list, notice the icons are different. These plotter icons represent plot configuration settings, and these come pre-installed with AutoCAD. We'll look at some of these in a little bit. For right now, I'm going to select a printer. I happen to have Adobe Acrobat installed on my machine, so I will select the Adobe PDF printer. You can select any printer on your machine that will handle a letter size sheet of paper. Now we'll come down to paper size. Letter happens to be what I want. If I click the flyout, I just want to mention that this list is dynamic. So whatever printer that you select, the paper sizes that you see in this list will be the ones that are available for that printer. Let's come down to plot area. This is where we tell AutoCAD what we want to print. There's a few ways we can do this. I'm going to click the flyout and we'll use the window method. Let me back up just a little bit, and I'm going to pick a point right here. And I'll pick a point right here. Essentially what I'm doing is creating a rectangle, and this rectangle defines the boundary of what I want to print. Let's come down to plot offset, and I will check center the plot. Now when I do this, watch my preview right over here. Each time I adjust a setting, my preview will update automatically. Notice the preview showing me an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. The hatched area in the middle represents the geometry that I'm printing. Let's come down to plot scale. Right now this is set to fit to paper. That's probably the worst setting. Usually you'll want to print your drawings to a measurable scale. Let me uncheck this. We'll go to the scale flyout and click. Notice I have several of the standard engineering and mechanical scales on top, and I've got standard architectural scales on the bottom. If this drawing was set for architectural units, I'd be using these scales. Let's try and plot this at a scale of 1:1. Take a look at my preview. Notice the red line. That shows me that my plot is larger than my paper, which stands to reason because this drawing is 12 inches by 12 inches. I'm going to click the scale again. We'll make it half scale, 1:2. That looks like it'll fit nicely. Now if you want, you can use this area below to create your own scales. If I'd like to plot this at 1:3, I could change my units to 3. Let me click in the other box to update my preview. We can see that on our screen. Essentially what I'm saying is 1 printed inch is equal to 3 units in model space. Since my model space units are inches, this drawing is 1:3. Let's put it back to 1:2. And we'll come down and click our preview button. As you can see, here's a representation of my paper. I can see my drawing on the sheet, and this plot preview works just like model space. If I roll my wheel forward, I can zoom in and out. If I hold my wheel down, I can pan. If I zoom in a little bit closer, you can see the pen weights on my lines. There's only one problem. Everything is wanting to plot using my layer color. Let's close this preview, and we'll address that issue. I'm going to come down and click this More Than button so we can see the additional settings in our plot dialog box. And then we'll come right up here to the plot style table. We'll click this flyout and we're going to select some pens. I'm going to grab the monochrome pen table. I'll select yes. We'll talk about pen settings in detail in just a little bit. Let's click Preview again. Let me zoom in a little bit. Now notice my plot preview looks as you would expect. I'm ready to create my print. Let me close the preview, and we'll come down and click OK. Now, if you just plotted directly to your printer, your paper is already coming out. Since I'm plotting to a PDF, I'm going to give my file a name. I'm going to call this Restrictor, and I'm going to save it to my desktop. The image that you see on screen is an example of my final plot. If your plot doesn't require the formality of a title block, plotting a window for model space is a great way to produce hard copies of your design.